Hello again, my name is Gio Monjas, I'm an illustrator, and today we're doing part 2 of the Maysia 2021 drawings. For a quick recap, Maysia was a drawing event made by these Asian artists for other Asian artists. Last VOD was part 1 where we covered days 1, 3, and 5, and you're welcome to check that out on the link above. But since we're caught up, let's go to day 7, music. Now, before sketching, I was thinking about what Filipino band I should do. I could do something classic like River Maya, or something more recent like The Four of Spades, but I decided to pick the first Filipino song I ever listened to, and that was Mr. Suave by Pt.2 Edgar. The band is kinda goofy, they're known for comedic parodies of popular hits, but this song in particular was an original piece, which made it unique. I wanted to do more of a character study for this illustration. In the beginning of the music video, it starts out with this slow-paced guitar solo with various shots of the lead singer dressed up as Mr. Suave. So you have this anime stance, like he's emanating an aura unlike anything we've ever seen, and a close-up of his face making a stern look. For the record, these are all taken from screenshots. At the very last note of the guitar solo, he swiftly picks up the mic into frame and begins singing. And I keep losing it at that small scene because the timing of him picking up that mic is so smooth and perfect. It gets me every time. Start out with a quick sketch to get the pose and composition down, and went straight to base colors. This is where I had a small challenge in front of me. In the music video, the guy is wearing a white shirt, dark vest and pants under a black background with one spotlight. In film, it created this nice, dramatic, almost noir effect, but to make it more my style, I wanted to add just a hint of more colors to make it more vibrant. So his skin tone already had this rich caramel color, but for the dark areas like his clothes and background, I went with a mixture of dark browns and bluish grays. With that, I was able to keep his hair pure black and the shirt pure white to give that strong contrast that would make him pop out of the background. So went again with the grayish purple multiply layer for more shadows, and then I erased the areas where I wanted the spotlight to hit. So back on the music video, the scene was shot in a particular way where the white of his shirt and sometimes the highlights of his hair were overexposed, thus giving this glowing effect. So on top of that multiply layer, I added a couple of white brush strokes, set it to overlay, adjust the opacity, and blurred it like crazy. On top of that overlay, I added more brushstrokes to get that strong highlights on the hair, and added 4-point stars around his shirt to give it that trigger anime kill effect. Afterwards, I went back to the base colors to add those details like on his face and in the clothes, and we're pretty much done. Overall, I'm really happy with this drawing. I felt really proud, especially after posting it on Instagram. Now, I'm not a very big artist, I'm not big on the platform, so I kind of know the regulars that like my post. But when I posted this one, I received a like and comment from someone new. So this guy commented porma, which is a Tagalog word, and surprise, surprise, I don't know my home language, so I had to ask my friends and family. They all said it means stylish, which got me even more curious. I'm like, who's writing stylish in the comments? So I decided to check this guy's profile, and lo and behold, it was Chito Miranda, the lead singer of Pt.2 Edgar. It was this guy, Mr. Suave himself. Oh my god, I was losing when I put 2 and 2 together. It set me on an emotional high. An emotional high that got me all the way to day 9. Casual wear. So I initially thought of drawing a close-up of feet wearing a pair of slippers, but then immediately scrapped it. I was like, nah, I'm not ready for that. Plus, I wanted to draw a full outfit, as well as figure out if I could pull off a hime cut. So I roughly drew a cross-legged sitting pose, add some props like a switch and a soda bottle. And even though I was still in the rough stages, I was feeling confident, so I skipped into the coloring stage. My idea of a casual outfit in the Philippines was flip-flops, or what we call chinelas, some beat-up jeans, and a tank top, or we call them sando. In case you're wondering, a hime cut is this trending hairstyle at the moment from Japan. It's essentially front bangs that fall around your brow, some side bangs that fall around your jawline, and anything from the ear behind is nothing but lovely locks of hair. I've seen some Westerners try pulling it off without the front bangs, and I think that's just ugly as hell. But anyways, since I cut some corners from my usual process, I knew I had to go back with some refined sketching. Especially in the hands. They're going to be the most dynamic part of the drawing. They're holding objects, which is like essential part of the storytelling of this character. So I took some photo reference, opened up a new layer, and did a refined drawing focusing on the arms, hands, and props. As soon as I got all of those basic shapes down, I went into the rendering stage, coloring all the shadows in the clothing, the skin, and the hair. Also went into the details like the small brush strokes for folds in the clothing, details on the switch, and I got more into the facial features like the eyes, nose, and etc. Essentially everything that I knew how to do really quickly, because the next thing is when I start having issues. And that issue was the glass bottle. There's a lot of things to consider when drawing glass. It's transparent, it can be very reflective at times, and if there's stuff inside of it, it gets even more complicated. So the way I approached it was I did a base layer of white, lowered the opacity. On top of that, I added another layer for the liquid, and on top of that, I added another layer for just highlights and the labeling. The Filipino folk may have guessed it right. I drew a bottle of Sarsi. It's a fairly common soda brand I'd see in the Philippines. I was thinking of doing other soda brands like Royal True Orange or my personal favorite, Cali Sparkling Pineapple, but I figured a dark cola like Sarsi would circulate better with the other darker parts of the illustration, like the hair, the video game, the slippers. Because if you look at each of those elements, together they give off a casual vibe. Think of it as visual storytelling. For the background, I want to keep it warm but fairly neutral. I wanted to aim for something that can balance out the blues and greens of the outfit but still not draw too much attention from the main figure. While doing this whole drawing, I was thinking about my grandma, or Lola, and her house in the Philippines, which has a lot of this light tannish stone tile in the front entrance. So I tried recreating that from memory. I remember there was a window at the very top of the entrance by the door, and it would have bars but be very decorative. I think it's like a very Filipino design element, and it would be the window to my lolo or grandpa's office. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this drawing. I'm not thoroughly convinced that I look good in a hime cut, but with all this nostalgia thinking about my Lola and her house in the Philippines, it really made me think of Day 11, traditional food. Since I was caught up in the nostalgia of my Lola's house, I wanted to draw out one of my favorite meals from there. I remember vividly waking up to roosters in the morning, slowly walking toward the balcony area where there would be a lace-covered dining table, and breakfast, which was always fresh pan de sal made across the street, a cup of instant coffee, and this cheese made out of water buffalo milk wrapped in banana leaves. For the longest time, I never had this cheese outside of my Lola's house, and I never knew the name. I recently found out it's called quesong puti. And fun fact, it's also made in other South American countries under a different name. So we start out with a rough sketch. Drawing just objects in perspective is not my usual routine, so I took a little more time with this one. I wanted to make sure that I knew where my light source was, as well as my shadow areas, and I also wanted to make sure that I didn't have any tangents. Now we get to the base colors. Kesong Puti is wrapped in banana leaves, which has this deep, saturated green color. I had a feeling it would be the main focal point, since coffee and pandesal share this common brown color palette, so I made sure the cheese was in the front of the composition. The setting takes place in the morning, so I wanted to make sure the shadows were pretty deep. For the pandesal, I wanted to find a way to show detail, yet keep it simple. So for each of those 3 loaves, I set it to alpha lock, then used a dark cross-hatching brush for the upper toasted areas, and I used a light painter brush for the side, the non-toasted areas, and for the breadcrumbs I used like a simple particle brush. To add just a little more contrast, I added some dark brown brush strokes here and there, like around the edges of the bread and just small areas where cast shadows would be. After the pandesal, I worked on the banana leaf. It's known to have this glossy finish, so I made sure to give it some bold, bright, almost like anime hair highlights. At this point in the drawing, I was just trying to focus on refining all the different shadow shapes, just making sure it makes sense or it's natural, yet doesn't interfere or create any more tangents here and there. When I'm illustrating or even designing, it's important to consider all the different elements or details of the drawing, because even a subtle thing like shadow shapes can create tangents or interfere with the overall composition of the illustration. And at the very last moment, I almost forgot to draw the instant coffee packet. At this point in the drawing, I was worried that the illustration didn't look as warm and comforting as I had in mind, so I was adding other elements to it to give it that warm feeling, like steam from the coffee and pandesal, changed the tone of the tablecloth, added highlights to all the objects, then also added some light rays and an orange blush here and there, just to give it that nice coziness that I was thinking in my head. And we're done. Overall, I'm really happy how this one turned out. I wasn't expecting it to be well received, especially on Twitter, but leave a comment below if you think I should be drawing more food. But otherwise, that's it for today, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell if you like. If you'd like to see more of my illustrations, you're welcome to check out my website, Twitter, and Instagram. If you'd like to support me, I also have a Patreon and a Ko-fi. Links are down below. And stay tuned for part 3 of the Maysia drawings in the near future. Take care, everyone.